Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County Candidate Forum. We are focusing this time on candidates who will appear in the 2021 primary election. This forum is for the City of Everett Council Position 5. I'm your moderator, Jody Troutwine. I'm a League member and I am the outgoing Voter Service Chair. And our candidates for the City of Everett Council Position 5 are Ben Zarlingo, Demi Chatters, and Kelly Fox. The League really thanks all these candidates for running for office, for being willing to serve the community if elected, and for participating in this forum. It is the policy of the League to be nonpartisan. Therefore, we neither endorse nor oppose candidates or parties. We do take positions on issues we have studied and on which we have reached consensus. These candidates received ground rules ahead of time, and now we are getting ready to go into the question and answer section, and I will explain those rules, which they have. The first three questions have already been shared with the candidates. They are designed as an introduction to each candidate's qualifications and strengths. I will pose the questions. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond to the first three questions. The fourth and final question will allow a 90-second response. We are using a countdown timer that is visible to the candidates. It shows elapsed time, signaling when there are 15 seconds left and when time is up. Time limits on answers will be strictly enforced. When you see the timer turn red and you hear the chime, you are done. Also, I will remind you if you don't hear or see. The order of questions will be changed for each one, rotating through all the candidates. The order was determined to ensure a random and fair sequence. The order for the first question will be Mr. Zarlingo, Ms. Fox, Ms. Chatters, and then we will roll through that order, okay? So let's begin. As I said, the first question goes to Mr. Zarlingo, and it is, what are the major responsibilities of this office and what skills are needed to perform them well?
Well, thank you. The City Council has a central role on budget and the priorities that drive it. Of course, they pass legislation, including land use choices, which affect a lot of our citizens, planning and zoning. They define city priorities overall, including involvement with other organizations. And they define the limits of city involvement and actions. The Seattle City Council, for example, hasn't agreed on much in that area, and I think is an example of how I don't think things should be run in Everett. They're also a liaison to neighborhoods and outside agencies and other pieces of the city. It may be useful to think of a council as kind of a decision machine. The public chooses representatives who listen to them, educate themselves in more depth than most citizens have time for, work with others on trade-offs and complex or difficult decisions. They keep in mind the best interest of the city, and now with more individual focus on the districts. So they need to be able to listen and communicate clearly, use broad knowledge and experience, and make good choices.
Thank you. Okay, the question next goes to Ms. Chatters. It is, what are the major responsibilities of this office and what skills are needed to perform them well? If you will unmute.
Am I unmuted? There we go. Sorry. Thank you. The City Council is our legislative branch of government, which represents residents in the governance process. City council members must facilitate outreach and input from residents to gain an understanding of the issues, needs, and concerns of the community. The most important part of this is to take those outcomes of these community engagement processes and communicate them as policy and legislative priorities, objectives, and direction to the city executive and administrative branch. They represent and promote the city's interests on local and regional boards, commissions, and committees, and work to set the stage for economic opportunity and responsible, transparent use of public resources. To do this, we must build relationships with local businesses, elected officials, community stakeholders, and residents, which requires proven advocacy and communication skills and knowledge around evaluating policies through an equity lens. It also requires noticing who we have not heard from and proactively going into the community to seek that input and ensure equal representation of all of our residents.
Thank you. And now the question goes to Ms. Fox. What are the major responsibilities of this office and what skills are needed to perform them well? If you will unmute.
Thank you. The major responsibilities of a council member are citizen representation, economic management and enhancement, and establishing policies and priorities for their jurisdiction. Citizen representation requires a council member who can be open, ready, and willing to listen to their constituents. Citizen representation also requires a representative able to prioritize the needs of the community and the constituents over theirs if and when necessary. Economic management and enhancement requires a council member who's skilled in budgeting, responsible spending, and ensuring opportunities for stimulating the economy are available. Establishing policies and priorities requires a council member able to use a worldview and get down to the details when necessary. A representative able to prioritize and multitask. Governmental leadership requires patience and understanding, as well as flexibility to balance all of the competing responsibilities. It also requires being able to choose which policies and priorities to address and then act.
Thank you very much. Okay, we move on to question number 2, and Ms. Chatters, you will be starting this one off. Question number 2 is, what are 2 or 3 major issues that need to be addressed by the Everett City Council?
We have to confront the crisis of affordable housing. We've got to build partnerships and foster a regulatory environment that allows us to meet this moment of need for folks at all income levels, because we're not just talking about our lowest income earners. You know, this is impacting our teachers, our first responders, and grocery and restaurant workers. We want those who work here and are invested in our community to be able to live here, and for our seniors to be able to stay here when they retire. Public safety is also a huge concern. I'm hearing from community members that they are troubled by what they're seeing in the neighborhoods, from homeless encampments to trash and debris to human waste out in the open due to lack of access to toilet facilities. Our police are being tasked with responding to this, which is unfair to them because poverty is not a crime. We need to invest in expanding the umbrella of public safety to ensure that folks in need are connected with immediate housing and wraparound services that address underlying issues. And we need a robust pipeline for job skills development so we can put folks back on track to contributing good things to our community.
Thank you very much. And now this question goes to Ms. Fox. What are 2 or 3 major issues that need to be addressed by the Everett City Council?
Thank you. The 3 most important issues the council needs to address, in my opinion, are COVID recovery, the budget deficit, and transportation. For COVID recovery, I would partner with the Chamber of Commerce to support businesses reopening and engaging the community in new activities and events. I would also work closely with Everett schools to extend a helping hand and provide sufficient programs to support children catching up and getting back on track. For the budget deficit, we need to ensure we maintain a lean city budget while still providing necessary services. I think we could do this by supporting regionalization efforts for both fire and transit. We can also form partnerships with nonprofit organizations providing needed services to the community. By supporting their efforts, we can have a larger impact with less funding. For transportation, the council needs to address local and regional transit. At the local level, they should support regionalization of Everett transit to improve services, accessibility, and future capabilities. At the regional level, the council needs to strongly advocate for sound transit to prioritize the Everett light rail extension. If we prioritize planning and design, we'll have light rail in Everett by 2036 instead of 2042.
Thank you so much. And now this question goes to Mr. Zarlingo. What are 2 or 3 major issues that need to be addressed by the Everett City Council?
Well, some issues are clearly more important than others. And in my experience attending and providing public input to the council many times, I'm struck by how interrelated the issues are that come before the council. In particular, I realized the need to identify important issues and act before they become urgent or a crisis. The best current example, no surprise, is the structural budget deficit, which can hurt the city's ability to address all the other issues. Some of these other major issues are public safety, the complex of homelessness, addiction, and mental health. We can't clearly reduce these issues to just 2 or 3 without missing things that are related to these major priorities. For example, the many choices and trade-offs that make housing affordable without hurting our neighborhoods. Also closely related are city choices that support businesses that create good jobs. If you've got good job growth, most problems are much more solvable, and without it, you're stuck.
Okay, thank you so much. And now we'll move on to question number 3. And Ms. Fox will be starting off with this one. What qualifications and experience make you a strong candidate?
Thank you. I have a bachelor and a master's degree in social work, as well as extensive experience working in organizational and city government administration. I've worked at nonprofits like USO Puget Sound, and I'm currently the executive director of Snohomish County EMS. I have also worked behind the scenes on EMS and healthcare's response to COVID and can offer a unique perspective on what we should consider in our recovery efforts. We need to ensure our healthcare providers and our community members have time to grieve, heal, and move on. My work with the City of Renton and the City of Seattle have made me familiar with our tax systems and government processes. I am skilled in developing ordinances, budget management, and grants administration. I have been on both sides of the table in labor negotiations. I have developed and supported city events and campaigns and would be able to easily take on these roles from a council member perspective.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zarlingo will be answering this question next. What qualifications and experience make you a strong candidate?
Well, I've had deep involvement in our neighborhood and other parts of the city since 1991. Schools, multiple volunteer organizations, time in front of the council, the planning commission, hearing examiners, the parks board, and others. With others in my neighborhood, I've met with local businesses and spent time advising and negotiating with developers, and even opposing some projects when we couldn't make them right for the neighborhood. I try my best to listen, negotiate in good faith, be creative, find win-win solutions with appropriate compromises. I have business experience as a product manager and a forecaster, making sense of the kinds of predictions and choices that those who manage a city have to make. I also have some respect for the limits of my own knowledge and the support and the insight of current council members and the city staff who've been working on these issues. The hard work they've all put into this over the years, they've been working to make Everett better.
Thank you so much. And now this question moves to Ms. Chatters. What qualifications and experience make you a strong candidate?
I'm a longtime member of this community and former small business owner with 10 years in the real estate industry and over 7 years in public service agencies. While I worked for King County, I was the project coordinator for the Superior Court during the seismic retrofit of the historic courthouse building. In that role, I was the liaison for the court and part of the team tasked with ensuring that we maintain full operations during that major capital improvement project. As a mom of 4 kids, I've spent 15 years engaging in advocacy work in our public schools to foster inclusive, high-quality educational environments. My educational environment is in business marketing and leadership. I have a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration and an MBA in progress. I've had the privilege of volunteering for many community organizations throughout the years, including those that serve our marginalized populations. I have a deep understanding of issues around equity, and I am still seeking to learn more. Most importantly, I am intentional about actively listening, and I am an experienced communicator.
Thank you very much. Now, you all have been doing a fantastic job staying within 1 minute, but now we're going to give you 90 seconds for this last question. And we will start off with Mr. Zarlingo. The question is, what have we neglected to ask that you would like to bring to our attention?
Well, I suppose a good way for a voter to assess how a candidate will serve when they're elected is to ask how they've served their neighborhood and their community in the years before they ran. The things they've done on their own steam, not just as part of the job. Have they engaged with this city and non-city organizations, nonprofits, businesses, schools, neighborhoods outside their own? In other words, have they been working with the range of people and interests that they'll encounter and affect with the decisions they make as council members? It's that range of engagements, both in terms of breadth and length of time, that made my decision to run when this position opened. So I'm running because I see this as a time when a number of council members are changing and the city's facing significant challenges that require experience and a really careful approach. That's what I intend to bring to the position of District 5.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we move to Ms. Chatters. What have we neglected to ask that you would like to bring to our attention?
I have direct experience with community advocacy work and direct experience identifying and balancing the needs of stakeholders and the constraints of project goals and budgets. I have specific experience within the framework of public agencies and publicly funded capital projects. I'm a human rights commissioner for Snohomish County and part of a 3rd-generation union family with a history that demonstrates my deep commitment to families and ordinary working folks. I'm proud to have been endorsed by a growing list of organizations, including IBEW 191, the National Women's Political Caucus of Washington, the Snohomish Ebony PAC, and the Snohomish County 21st and 38th Legislative District Democrats. I've also received the endorsement of many of our regional elected officials, including Senator June Robinson and Representatives Emily Wicks, Mike Sells, and April Berg, and even our very own Everett City Council President, Brenda Stonecipher. Everett is a growing and evolving city. It remains a great place to live and to raise our families, but there are challenges on the horizon that our next council will need to tackle, all of which are taking place with the looming backdrop of climate change. This requires intentional outreach to the entire community and bold leadership on our priorities, as well as relationship building and collaboration on creative solutions and investment in the city that we want to see. I have the experience and skills needed in this moment, and as your city council representative, I will be accessible, accountable, and committed to bringing the community's perspectives into these important conversations while we set our course for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. And now take it away, Ms. Fox, for the last question. What have we neglected to ask that you would like to bring to our attention?
Well, I'd like to just start by telling you a little bit more about me. I live with my husband in Everett, of course. We just purchased our home in 2019, and I have lived in the Puget Sound area since 1995, and I've been involved in the community ever since. I've participated in several different nonprofit organizations in addition to my public service roles at the City of Renton and City of Seattle and South County Fire, as well as North County Fire. So I have a lot of those experiences, but I also want to tell you something more about me, and that's that I identify as being queer. And I think our council needs more representation, and I want to be that representation for you. I believe there was a Pride in the Park recently, and it was amazing. I enjoyed going to the Pride in the Park, and I really appreciated being able to be out with my husband and be in that park. But the thing that was most concerning to me is that all of the residents who were not expecting this event to happen were not participating in the event or seemed supportive of it. A lot of the residents actually had their backs turned to our event. And I just really want to figure out a way and work with you to have representation and make sure that we're accepting of everybody in Everett. Thank you.
Thank you to you all. And this concludes our forum. A recording of this forum will be available on the League of Women Voters of Snohomish County website and our YouTube channel, and will be aired on KSER 90.7 FN. You can find the whole schedule of the candidate forums and the KSER recordings, etc., on our website, which is LWV, League of Women Voters, Snoho, shortened for Snohomish.org. You can Google it, it should show up too. We encourage you to explore additional information about these candidates and all candidates. The Snohomish County voter pamphlet will be mailed to residences starting July 14th, and the primary election ballots will be mailed on the 15th, and Election Day is August 3rd. Please vote. Thank you to all of you candidates and everyone listening for joining us today.